Welcome, everyone. As we are settling in, we just want to welcome you to the MLK Day of Service, where we will speak about community impact through sport. As we get settled in, let us know in the chat where you are joining us from, where you are serving. I'm currently in Los Angeles, where it is pretty chilly out here right now, so I'm kind of cold out here. But where are you all located? We want to know. Baltimore. I've heard stories about the cold in Baltimore. Portland. Nice. Philadelphia. All right. Chicago. How's the weather in Chicago? Is it cold? Is it hot? I have heard a lot about New York as well. New York is freezing right now. Oh, nice. Okay. I know. I can't handle anything under like 80 degrees, so I'm freezing right now. We'll get started in a few more minutes. Just want to welcome everyone again to the MLK Day of Service, where we will talk about community impact through sport. We'll give it 2 more minutes and then we'll get started. Chicago, oh my gosh, winter storm. I don't know, this winter is feeling a little chillier. One more minute and then we'll get started. All right. Give it a few more seconds. If anyone's joining, welcome to the MLK Day of Service, where we will talk about the community impact through sport today. See, Zanette, that's that's different for East Coasters because 47 degrees is chilly. It is cold for us. We gather up in beanies, scarves, gloves, everything. All right, so welcome everyone to the MLK Day of Service with Up2Us Sports. I'm Rebecca, the Up2Us Sports VISTA leader, and today we pay tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and we reflect on the lessons of his life. And in AmeriCorps fashion, we are gathered here today to unite, serve, and transform. So for our general agenda for today, we will be going over the meaning behind MLK Day of Service. We will have our community impact panel, and finally, there will be a call to action at the end of our session today.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s message can be heard everywhere.
His words changed the nation.
And though you might not know where the words came from,
you can feel the truth behind them.
We're now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We're confronted with the fierce urgency of now.
The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. called us all to service.
Opportunities to serve those in need are all around you.
And every time you volunteer to read to a child, serve a hearty meal, or clean up a park in your comunidad, his message becomes a reality.
This January is your chance to let MLK's word inspire you to action.
You can volunteer for a better tomorrow on MLK Day at AmeriCorps.gov/MLK Day.
So we unite to build a beloved community through unity, through service, and transformation. Honoring Dr. King's legacy by working toward a more just and equitable society where everyone is valued and respected regardless of their race, their ability, their gender, their religion, or background. To transform is a means to change form and appearance, nature, or character, especially a radical change. Its meaning shows just how significant change is And we are out here making a change for the better. We're leading youth, leading coaches, leading organizations to better our communities and the world. Dr. King once said, "Make a career of humanity. Commit yourself to the noble struggle for equal rights. You will make a better person of yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world to live in." And as service members, as youth sports leaders, as community leaders, we want to stay informed and create a lasting change that will benefit our communities for years to come. And as coaches, as service members in youth sports, VISTAs, and leaders on this call, you are meant to give back to the community. That is what you are doing at your host sites, at your organizations, creating change by building capacity, by mentoring and leading, whether that be through coaching, funding, recruiting, mentoring, bridging sponsorships, collecting data for donations, managing volunteers. Our work has meaning. Our service matters. So sports have the opportunity to transform, serve, and unite communities. Sports also has the ability to provide spaces for youth to experience community, friendship, and success, but also to gain skills to overcome challenge and disappointment. Community programs, leaders, and mentorships play a key role in championing those sports as a tool for community transformation. And we have brought together 5 community leaders to discuss just how important and how impactful sport has on the communities they serve across the country. To lead our conversation is Alex Penman. He currently sits on the Up2Us Sports board, is an Up2Us Sports coach alumni, and is the program director at Youth Mentoring Partnerships. So passing the mic over to you, Alex.
Hello, and thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate you. This is going to be a great talk today. Really excited to get this conversation started. But let's invite our community leaders, shall we? So first, we have Michael Wood. He has an expansive career in youth development, program development, and leadership development. As a portfolio manager at AmeriCorps, Michael supports organizations that see service as a solution to local and national challenges and create powerful member experiences that result in lifelong civic engagement. Michael, thank you so much for being here. We also have Jacob Toups, who has over 15 years of experience in the nonprofit space. He is the founder of Rainbow Labs, which provides safe and inclusive mentoring programming for queer and gender non-conforming youth throughout Los Angeles County. Thank you so much for being here, Jacob. Next, we have Donny Faalilu, who has 20 years of experience at After School All-Stars in LA. His role as the Senior Vice President of Leadership and Community Outreach allows him to drive the mission of After School All-Stars and provide premier school-based expanded learning programs to 73 schools, public and charter schools, serving more than 20,000 students a year. Donny, thank you so much. And finally, we have Caroline Fascato, who has over 20 years of experience in youth sports development and is the president and founder of Soccer Unity Project. Using soccer as a tool to build community across diverse populations, Soccer Unity Project promotes equitable opportunities for youth to play at any level and have access to the wellness benefits of playing the sport. Panelists, thank you so much for being here. This is going to be a great conversation, and we're going to go ahead and get it started off. Donny, I'm interested. How does your organization see youth sports as a means to unite communities?
Appreciate it, Alex. Thanks for the question, and happy to be on this panel. So we talk about youth sports. Youth sports has been a powerful tool for us to be able to unite communities across Los Angeles who come from diverse backgrounds, and fostering a sense of inclusivity and breaking down barriers. There's definitely a sense of purpose. It generates a strong sense of community pride. There's lots of social interaction, not only between our students and our athletes, but also be able to include our families. Definitely developing a sense of belonging within the community. We're also able to share life lessons, positive values such as teamwork, discipline, perseverance, fair play, and good sportsmanship. Good sportsmanship is something that we harp on a lot. And lastly, youth sports encourages, health, wellness, and promoting physical activity and living a more healthy lifestyle. And so we look at youth sports. I think a good example I could share and highlight in summary is, we have this Kicks for Hope Kicks for Hope soccer tournament every year. This past year, we had over 2,000 attendees and participants, 800 of them, which were athletes. Families came out. We also had vendors and information booths. We actually had an immigration law firm that came out, provided some resources for the community, music, food, right? It was just a great space to be in, all because of sports, all because of the love of soccer.
I love it. Donnie, thank you so much. We were talking about soccer, and well, Caroline, you are the, I don't want to say soccer expert in the room, but how do you see that soccer in particular brings those communities together?
Thank you so much for having me. You have to excuse my voice. I'm getting over a really bad virus, so I'm glad to be up and moving today. It's soccer is the global sport, and it's played on every continent, in every country, over 4 billion fans and billions of players across the world. And there is no really better way to connect people than through a central passion, giving them something that's not prescribed, that's not prescripted, safe, joyous space to just come together and do something you love. Make a friend who's a teammate. One of the quotes that I love from Martin Luther King Jr. is, he says, people fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they haven't communicated with each other. So very much, as Donnie was mentioning, we are free, our programs are free, and we bring people across race, socioeconomics, ethnicity, gender, background, religion together in one space. And because it has popularity, and we're, a global city with over almost 30% of the greater Boston area foreign born, we bring together all these people that already have a pre-passion and their kids want to play. And every kid just wants to play a sport. And we work really hard to change the model of pay to play, and to create soccer as one that really is representative of all populations, which historically it hasn't been. And that's by just creating a joyous space to play.
I love it. Just getting into that safe space and allowing kids to come out and just be kids and play a sport. Jacob, I'm going to pick on you for a second. Same idea, creating that safe space. I know Rainbow Labs is very interested in creating those safe spaces for, the LGBT and queer communities. How do you feel about bringing those communities together to play sports?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for us, when Luis and I started the organization, we kind of thought that these spaces sort of existed. We'd been working with youth providers across LA County for over 15, 20 years. And a lot of our youth providers are really receptive to working with LGBTQ kids, especially in their programs. I think the intentionality and the confidence in which they do it, and creating those spaces, is something that we've been pushing for the last couple of years. But our work in the last couple of years is really just simply that, if folks don't know, for every we only have about like 66% of our kids who are not playing sports right now. So about 1 in 3 LGBTQ kids play sports. So we're at a very, very small baseline. And what that tells us is nationally, kids in our community do not feel safe in sport. So we're dealing with not only the safety, but we're also dealing with everything else, socioeconomic challenges that a lot of our youth, pay to play, access to sport, transportation, and also just simply feeling safe to be themselves in sport. And so for a lot of us, I really believe in the power that sport can unite communities. I love the life skills that you can get from sports. I love that coaches can be mentors to that. And so the challenge that we see that we're hoping that sport can unite inside our own community is just simply giving access for kids to get those benefits. If anything, right now, our programs are prohibiting our kids from being able to benefit from those amazing life skills and benefits they can get from their coaches and their peers. And so that's kind of a little bit of what we're working on in Los Angeles.
I really appreciate you bringing up the important life skills, and you touched on coaches being mentors, and coaches are that really important factor in a kid's life. I'm sure there's some parents in this room that have told their kids repeatedly something, but a coach says it one time and they listen. It's amazing, right? And our guy Michael has a hand in kind of placing those coaches, I think, and trying to find some people from AmeriCorps. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Michael, how do you feel on getting those coaches out to unite communities through sport?
Well, Alex, I wish I could take the credit for putting coaches in positions, but the other folks on this screen are the folks that are making that happen. I happen to be in the enviable position of the funder who supports those types of activities. And so what's amazing about listening to the activities that are happening, from my fellow panelists is looking at the synergy because, okay, we've just come together. But the two things that really popped out at me as I thought about this question is, first, it's a place to develop community for you. When you're talking about a place to belong, a place and then someone, meet a team member, meet a friend. I mean, you've heard it, referenced prior. I think it's an important development component for young people to learn how to socialize, and that's been mentioned. The second thing I think is critical in there, it's a place to celebrate our youth. One of the things that we recognize is as our youth, mature, they typically receive less celebration in school. They're celebrated less in school, and interactions with organizations are sometimes more negative than positive. So what's awesome about the approach and through the sports is it gives an opportunity or provides an opportunity to teach so many life lessons. Again, which was another point that was made earlier. So.
Yeah, I love that. That kind of goes right into the next topic I want to get into, which is, how does youth participation in sports impact the long-term well-being and success of our youth by learning those life skills?
All right, so I'm off mute, so I'm going to jump in. Alex, I'm not going to make you call on me this time because, again, I really did appreciate, the questions that were formulated for the panel today. So we talk about experiences, developing social skills, transferable skills, and more importantly, etiquette, right? We don't think about etiquette we think about etiquette in terms of specific sports, but we don't always think about them in the importance of understanding, how we navigate through life. So we talk about etiquette are simply rules that you need to follow in a certain situation. Every sport has rules that you have to follow in order to be successful in that sport. And if you're unable to follow that etiquette and follow those rules, oftentimes you're unable to be successful, in that sport. You talk about the transferable skills, working with team members, learning how to lead, how to be a follower, how to play your position. Because, a good athlete isn't going to just be great at their position. They're going to know what's happening around them and what those other positions need to be doing. And, more importantly, how to win and how to learn. And I purposely said learn and not lose, okay? Because for a very long time, my conversation and, my bio, you see I'm a father of three, grandfather of three. My conversation is, no, you didn't make a mistake. You weren't wrong. You didn't lose. But I always want to understand, what is it that you've learned? Because if there's been a learning, then this effort hasn't been in vain. If we find ourselves back in this same situation, again, then that may be more of a challenge. But when I begin to reflect on just my own life and, maturation process, having been an athlete in college and everything else, those were the things that kind of jumped out at me. So I'll give my panelists, my fellow panelists, an opportunity.
No.
Yeah, I can jump in, Alex. I think for us, 40% of our kids don't feel affirmed by their families. And we know that if they feel affirmed by their families, they're better off long term, right? And I feel like sports and a coach could be that place where they feel affirmation somewhere. So it's actually how these spaces can create other places where kids feel a sense of belonging and community. And so the long-term impacts could be so substantial for some of our kids in sport. If they're like, my dad doesn't accept me for who I am, or my mom doesn't, but I know my coach does, or I know someone in my program does, or I know that my peers who are I'm there and I'm with them and this community is created, my friends do, right? And so if we can't be that, at least what we could do is leverage the power of sport to be able to create a sense of belonging where kids feel affirmed.
Magic, I love that, what you just said. I mean, it's definitely a great space to be in terms of, what was mentioned earlier in terms of access. Definitely a lot of long-term well-being and successes in participating in youth sports. I mean, when you look at the overall physical, mental health, and well-being maintaining like the physical fitness, reducing the risk of obesity. Obesity has been big in a lot of our youth throughout Los Angeles, and Montebello, for example, they have started this initiative of really being able to provide sports as a vehicle and as an opportunity for students to be able to be engaged and be able to participate, and as Caroline, as you mentioned too as well, yeah, it's all free, right? It's an opportunity for them to be able to participate in the sport where families don't have the means to be able to pay to be able to be a part of these organized sports activities. And so I think also it really, you hear the stories our participants have said that they've lost weight, they feel healthier, they develop more self-confidence. There's this boost of self-esteem, right? And this feeling of sense of accomplishment and belonging that was shared. And I think because of this newfound, self-confidence and this boost of self-esteem, definitely I've witnessed students, like they're finding their voice, right? They're becoming more vocal. They're becoming leaders, not just within the sport that they play, but also within our programs. And Michael, as you mentioned, the wins and how to learn, thought about just teaching our kids, how to win and lose with class, right? And a lot of the learning that comes from that, because that's going to be life skills that they're going to have to, it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to win all the time. There's going to be some losses, but how do you respond? How do you bounce back? How do you pick yourself up to be able to keep going? Are some of the long-term effects and impacts of just overall well-being and success in our youth.
I think that's something as a young athlete, I knew, but I didn't know how to vocalize. And it wasn't until a year ago, I was talking to my brother. My brother has been a long time athlete of baseball and coaching baseball. And anyone that knows baseball, they say it's a game of failure, right? And that just angers my brother. And he says, no, it's not a game of failure. It's a game of opportunity. When you said winning and learning, it's the same idea. There's so many opportunities to succeed or figure it out. And I love that we're bringing that up. Caroline, I didn't want to leave you out. Do you have any thoughts and feelings on this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I'm going to throw just a little data in the equation. So, there's so many reports out there about what success, life success and wellness and health is directly connected to playing sports, and particularly playing as a youth. So there's a report that over 70% of the adults that play sports, it's because they started playing when they were kids. So they're healthy adults because they were healthy kids. It's a lot of information that's come out post-COVID about mental health and stress and the impact of playing sports and being physically active, and how that has a direct correlation to your mental health and your well-being, which affects you through life. And if you learn as a child how to utilize that tool of movement and play and being with friends on a team, you can do it again and again in your life. I'm not the athlete in my family, but the rest of my family are big athletes, and that's what they do. That's where their safe and happy space is. And, I'll also talk about the fact that one of my favorite statistics is over 90% of C-suite level women executives played sports. So the governor of our state in Massachusetts, a huge basketball fan and player, and is a direct correlation in everything that everyone's talked to about. The things that you learn on a field, on a pitch, on a court, on a track, wherever it is, that you directly take into your life, the resiliency, the ability to, work through challenge and difficulty and teamwork and all the things that directly correlate into your professional and personal life. I want to end that with just a story about one of our alumni, young woman that grew up playing in our program and went through multiple struggles at times. One of her most successful moments was when we first started our travel teams, and we didn't have enough girls for a girls team, so she played on the boys team. And when we did get a girls team, she actually asked to stay with the boys team. She was one of the best players on the team, and the boys asked for her to play on the team with her. And it gave her this unbelievable sense of confidence. And now she coaches with us. And, she talks about that moment in her life that's like, it it didn't matter, her identity. It didn't matter, who she was. She was a great player and the best teams wanted her. And that sat with her and it continues with her now as she's moving through her life. So there really is nothing like the power sport and what it gives to you. And, I'm so applaud everyone on this call and everyone that's connected with AmeriCorps Up to Us, because we have to all work together. That's the unifying, that every child gets these opportunities, because what the lifelong results for them from obesity, health, mental health, social health, physical health, everything that they don't have that access to if they don't have the access to play.
Yes. That was absolutely fantastic. I love it. And it kind of goes into our next question here, which is, what does your organization do to transform your community? And how do you measure that success? I know Caroline was talking a little bit about data.
Yeah, I'll just jump into that real quick, and I'll go first. So we're working on our evaluations and metrics process. Part of the challenge for us is the off-the-shelf things don't work for us, because we want to measure social cohesion, cultural awareness, cultural appreciation, because we're bringing people from different ethnicities, nationalities, races, economics together and backgrounds. We want to measure, like, what have you done? So we created some of our own, surveys and asked these questions, and we get responses like, I met people that I didn't know lived in the city, like certain communities or nationalities. I met someone that lived on my street that I didn't know. We do a lot of kind of subjective and interviewing and qualitative. And I had a mother just tell me, I've heard this so many times over the last 15, 20 years, mother tell me this past fall that there are 3 kids that live on her street. They all go to different schools because we don't have neighborhood schools. They met on the soccer field and they're now friends and they do play dates together. And so there's also Boston, unfortunately, has, a reputation for being disconnected and siloed and people not being interconnected. And we know that we see people coming together, and that coming together is kind of in the quote that I gave from Martin Luther King, that you fear what you don't know, but when you meet someone and you realize you're just like me, you may not talk like me, you may not look like me, we may not eat the same food or listen to the same music, but we all want the same things. And when you're in that space that's just about play and fun, you learn that. And we see people telling us that they now have friends from backgrounds that they never had before. And personally in my life, it touched me in that way. I have close friends that I never would have met if it wasn't for this sport. And so I think the success measurement, the quantitative and qualitative are both important. What are the data points? Like, who's getting on the field? Who are they? How do they identify themselves? But really that storytelling and that connectivity with people to share with you, like, what personally happened with them. And you see it really in every sport and every space.
Awesome. I appreciate that answer. Definitely talking about qualitative and quantitative data, that I've been in the nonprofit game for a while. It's very hard to collect data on the thing that you do because you see it, right? You walk in and you see, this group of people and these group of people coming together, and they're for you, they're playing soccer, they're doing the same thing. And there's this like energy that you can feel while the sport's happening or while your practice is happening. And it's a beautiful thing. I'm interested, anyone else? How do you measure that success?
I don't mind going.
Okay.
I'm like Caroline, we love data. So we talked about impact. We run sports clinics with youth providers across Los Angeles, bringing in like LGBTQ folks who are adults who love sports, and kind of we want a role model to make sure that they can see that LGBTQ people show up in sports, whether like they're playing casually on an adult league or they're playing professionally or they're just a fan in the stands. We just want people to know that we show up in that community. And I think that seems like a simple baseline, but it really is the baseline, unfortunately, right now, because people don't think we show up in this space. So I think it's just simply visibility and role modeling what that looks like. And so we have kids rotate through different sports stations, just get them to feel safe and comfortable and confident. And then we have a program with the Dodgers Foundation, Dodgers Dream Team, where we have a softball team through their program, which is really fun. We're one of the only LGBTQ high school softball teams in the Dream Team program that was established in the 1980s. So it's super, super fun. But like Carolyn was saying, like we're trying to figure out the data part too. So we survey our kids that come through the program, and we do some post-program surveys. And I'll let people know we're creating an LGBTQ youth sports engagement guide, which we'll have probably done by the end of this month. But I will say a few stats that we pulled from the kids who participate in our programs, that 84% of our kids report that our programs are safer or a safer sports environment compared to others. And many people enjoy connecting, 64%, with other queer people in the community. And so we're kind of just really measuring like visibility, baseline, and understanding connection to the queer and LGBTQ community as that. And then we'll get into mentor-mentee relationships and things that are on a deeper level once we can get past visibility. So we're kind of like way here, but that's also because, like I mentioned earlier, only a third of our kids play sports. So if our success looks like more kids play sports or they enjoy it in the individual or the group activities.
That's great. I love it. Yeah, definitely getting more kids out there, and like you said, just creating that safe space is just fantastic. I love it. I'm interested. I'm going to throw it back to Donny real quick. What are some key lessons you may have learned from your experience with after school all-stars, and what can you share with others?
Sure. So I think when it comes to lessons learned, some of the things I'm just thinking about is, like remembering that's not about you. It's about our youth, right? It's about our babies. It's about, be able to make it fun, right? We understand. I mean, being so Michael, you mentioned being a former college athlete. I'm actually I actually coach rugby and also youth football right now. And we just won the Super Bowl. We won nationals. Been a great time this year. But, at the end of the day, it's like, the question is, man, like, did you have fun? You have fun? Great. So, just keep it very simple. We understand that kids are not going to go play professionally. They're not going to get a Division I scholarship, right? But it's about providing space, providing an opportunity, providing that space for them to be able to play, compete at a high level, but also to have fun too as well. One of the mottos from rugby that we share with our families and our athletes all the time is that coaches coach, players play, and parents support, right? And so I think if we just simplify that, at the end of the day, also to remember your why, and also to make it fun for ourselves too as well, right? As coaches and as staff and as team members, make sure you're also having fun too as well.
I think fun is underrated in sports. I think so many people get caught up in the wins and opportunities that we forget about the fun, and that kids are there to be with their friends and again be in a safe space and do that. So I love that. Thank you, Donny. Michael, any key lessons you learned from your experience?
Yeah, I think there were two that I kind of wanted to share. And it's amazing on a practice field, the things that you will hear and you won't realize until later in life how those things resonate with you. But one of my college coaches, every time we came out to the field, he said, don't count the time, make the time count. To this day, I cannot get that out of my mind. Don't count the time, make the time count. And so the transferable nature of that is he meant it in terms of that practice, but I've now taken it into my daily practice and how I engage in my work and in my community. So that's one. I think the second one is probably one that the majority of you have heard in one way, shape, or form. But it's the 5 Ps. Poor preparation promotes poor performance. Athletes understand that. You can't just walk off of the bench and perform at a high level. You can't just walk into a career field and achieve at a high level. It takes time to practice. You have to prepare for it. You have to ready yourself for those situations. So I think those are two things that have resonated, with me throughout my career. And I lean on those things to remind myself, if I'm dragging, don't count the time. Don't count the time. Make this time count. And my preparation is important. So those are the two things that I would say have really kind of impacted me and lessons learned for me.
That's a great one. I wrote that down. That's a good one. Good job, Michael. Caroline, any lessons you'd like to share with the group?
So one of the first lessons I would share is that adults are really good at making things really complicated, and kids are really good about just knowing what needs to happen. And we really need to listen to our kids, right? I mean, I remember when we first started playing competitively in travel teams, and we had to mark fields with cones or, plastic markers, or, we didn't have the right spaces. And, we're in a field in the middle of the city that's never been utilized for soccer before, and just trying to activate play in communities that hasn't had the access before. And, adults are showing up on opposing teams telling us, like, this isn't appropriate, and it's not the exact right size goal. And it's not, I was like, around the world, people are just picking up a ball or something that looks like a ball and playing soccer and having a great time. And I think, it's one of the things that we really work on is, let's not make this so complicated, and let's really focus on like what it is that the kids want, right? And listen to them. And when everything we started with the rec league, and then we added in travel teams because kids wanted it. Then we're starting to do adaptive soccer because families asked for it. And then we started Pee-wee programming with 3 and 4-year-olds because families and kids wanted it. Like, a big lesson is like, listen to the people and what they want. Don't pre-prescribe what you think it is that they want to have. And so it really pushes us in what we do. And then another lesson, learned through all of this is that if you set the bar, the expectation of performance or behavior or respect or anything at a high level, people meet it. You just set the bar. You just say, this is it. And you embrace those that don't want to play in that sandbox, that they'll go find their own sandbox. Right. And when you set the bar really high, that's where everybody achieves too. And it's been an amazing experience to watch our kids now, because we've been here long enough, come back, and our alumni and what they teach us and how they told us, like, the fact that you gave us uniforms so we didn't have to worry about paying for it meant so much to me. You gave me cleats, boots. So I looked like every other kid, right? And those are the things that we are hearing from them. And then when they came back and said to us, that again, it came back to the kids. They're the ones that are our best teachers in teaching us our lessons.
I love it. You took my lesson, which is raising the bar, which is great. It's a great lesson, and it was something very unexpected for me. When you set a high expectation, the kids that want to be there and the parents meet that expectation. The other ones, like you said so politely, go find another sandbox to play in, which is great. And I love that. Thank you. Jacob, any lessons?
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID taught us all a lesson, which is, the lesson we've learned is meet kids where they're at. So COVID taught us that we were riding a wave where kids are just showing up to schools and parks and centers, and they're just wonderful. Like, they're just showing up. And then COVID came and destroyed all of that. And I think sometimes what's wonderful about that is you break it, you can kind of see what happened in the, and was it actually a really good system for our kids? Is this something where we're actually meeting kids at? And so in this rebuilding period, as we launched this over the last couple of years, which has been really nice, is we're rebuilding with a new system, which is really fun. And for us, it's like, we haven't been doing things for 20 years. So we get to learn and bring in new perspectives and opportunities at a time in which the youth development field really needed that. We really needed an idea of like, hey, we need to like maybe think about if this is actually being useful for our kids. And specifically in sports, how do we continue to reevaluate whether sports is really a good intervention and how we can make it a little bit better? So we thought that we could just go and pop up our program at an LA County park, and did a bunch of outreach, and we had 3 kids show up. And so we're like, oh, that's not going to work. And our approach is that we need to meet kids where they're at. And so for us, going into youth programs where the kids are already there every single day after school, or they're in other places, is like, that's where they're currently at, right? And by going in there and meeting kids where they're at, we're also talking about how do you view sports? Do you want to just like have a conversation about it first, then you play? Like, where is your interest level? And then how can we make sure that we are adapting our programs to that skill set? When we first launched our Dodgers Dream Team softball team a couple years ago, we had like 5 kids, and that was great, but we need 14 kids for a softball team. So it didn't work. But what we did was we just kept going. We're like, you know what? We're not going to play softball. We're going to keep showing up because we have 6 kids here and they're showing up. They're making the time commitment. The parents are dropping them off. We'll figure it out. It's all about just being here and like this idea that we're overcoming our fear of sports and that it's not a safe place for this community. 6 kids have committed to that. They believe in this. And so if they believe in it, then the adults need to show up to make sure to continue that. And then this year we had 14 kids, and you just kind of keep trying new things and innovate. And so I think for us, it's our lessons learned is always meet kids where they're at.
Awesome. Well, panelists, I'd like to thank you so much for coming out here and talking to us and sharing some knowledge about your organizations and how we're, again, meeting kids where they're at and creating those safe spaces for all to participate. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. And, keep on impacting those communities through sports like we always do. And I think I have to pass it back to Rebecca now for our closing.
Yes, thank you, Alex. And thank you so much to our panelists for this wonderful conversation on how you make a transformative change in your community. And we can take inspiration from Dr. King and become leaders in our own communities. In the work that you're in right now, you are making a difference, not only in your own life, but in your communities and at your host sites, because nothing we do is insignificant. And I know that we are celebrating before the official Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service, but we challenge you on Monday to unite with your community, to serve a cause that is greater than yourself, and to transform your understanding of your community impact. And in order to do that, we challenge you now to make a pledge for uniting, serving, and transforming. If you use this QR code, it will pop up with the form where you will fill out your name, your email, and you can decide what way you're going to pledge to work with your community on Monday. I want to thank everyone for participating in this Up2Us Sports MLK Day of Service. We're going to keep that code for you all to make that pledge on Monday. And then thank you everyone for taking the time today to join us. Thank you, Alex. Thank you to the panelists for taking some time and giving us a conversation to have here and sharing your stories and having an impactful conversation with us. So have a fantastic rest of your day. And for everyone else who joined us, we will send a follow-up with a one-pager of different volunteer opportunities and resources to reflect, unite, serve, and transform your community. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Have a great day.